Hey everyone, thank you for watching, or listening, rather, to this latest episode of the Needle Drop Podcast. Wearing my authentic Yeezy tie-dye shirt over here. Lots of holes, just really expensive streetwear. This shirt was like $4,000. Anyway, in this episode, we're having a fantastic conversation with Matmos about their latest record, Ultimate Care 2. Definitely one of the most fun and easy interviews I've done ever. The guys are great. I'm going to be leaving links down there to their website, to their tour, to the album, to my review of their latest record, so make sure to check that out. Now, this latest podcast, if you want to support this podcast, you can already do what you're doing by watching it, sharing it, commenting on YouTube, or you can check it out on our website. Also, I have left a link down there in the description where you can subscribe to and download this podcast on iTunes. Over there, we backlog older episodes. But if you want to be up to date on this podcast and have it sent straight to your email inbox for a small monthly fee, we send you straight, direct, in your email, like I said, this podcast every week. And also, you can hit up our Amazon Associates link if you live in the U.S. Anything you buy off of Amazon, we get kickback from it. So if you're just doing your regular Amazon shopping or whatever, just use the link. Doesn't add anything onto your overall cost. And yeah, that's it. So that's the episode. That's how you can support this podcast. Continue supporting the Needle Drop. And you're the best. Ba-bam! Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, and you're listening to the latest episode of the Needle Drop Podcast, where we do a series of interviews with content creators from around the world. And in this episode, we are having a conversation with two fantastic electronic and experimental music producers, Mr. Martin Schmidt and Drew Daniel of Matmos, who just dropped a brand new album titled Ultimate Care 2 on Thrill Jockey Records. Gave a review, love the record. A lot of you guys love the record too. So hopefully in this conversation, they are able to, kind of give us a little bit of insight into the creative process of this album and what exactly drove them to, create such a unique record, and what exactly magnetized them to this wonderful Whirlpool washing machine, the Ultimate Care 2, all of which I believe all the sounds throughout the record are sort of sampled from a wash cycle from that record. If I'm wrong on any of this stuff, they will very quickly correct me, I'm sure. And we will
anal point here.
And I'm sure we'll talk about their past discography and any other stuff that sort of comes up in the midst of the conversation. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks so very much.
Cheers.
All right. So yeah, I know that you guys have over the years sampled a really wide array of sounds for a lot of your records. What exactly drove you to try out sampling a washing machine, and sort of what was so interesting about that batch of sounds that sort of made you think, this is worth a whole record? This isn't just a song or a bit of a song like previous samples that you've worked on. This is an entire record here.
Well, Drew and I take turns being in charge of the records that we make.
Oh, wow.
Ostensibly, the idea was to stop us from fighting so much, because the idea that with equal power we fight, and with unequal power we don't fight. This does not turn out to be true, but we've stuck with this structure.
Okay. And whose turn was it this time?
It is my turn. It was my turn. It's not my turn anymore. Martin.
I get it. I'm going to go back and I'm going to look through all the previous records. I'm going to figure out if that holds true, if this alternating style holds true. I'm going to go back and I'm going to figure out who made all my favorite Matmos records. And then that guy's just going to be my favorite.
Me, Anthony. It was me. I make the popular records.
Yeah.
Drew makes the records with the 14-word titles that take half an hour to explain.
Got it.
It's true. Martin created Supreme Balloon and the Civil War. I'm responsible for, I guess, A Chance to Cut and The Rose Has Teeth in the Mouth of a Beast.
But, and The Marriage of True Minds.
Yeah, the ones with...
and
if it has
the preamble to the Constitution of the United States of America. We the People in Order to Form a More Perfect Union album.
If it has a pretentious title, it's probably me. And I guess what's happened is just this like course correction or couples therapy model And since I had taken us into such an elaborate place that was also very labor intensive with the Marriage of True Minds, it was Martin kind of snapping me out of my trance by saying, why don't we make the whole album out of that? And just pointed right at the washing machine.
It's in our studio, or our studio is in the laundry room, depending on the way you want to look at it.
Got it.
So convenience, simplicity, the knowledge that as I am the house husband and I do all the laundry and I spend a lot of intimate time with the washing machine, I know that it provides a wide variety of sounds, and that variety comes in time. It's cyclic, like a song. It returns to what it starts with, like a good, in my opinion, album. Yeah, I mean, it's got it all. I mean, it's got rhythm, it's got pitch, it's got what the fuck is the word? Intervality. How would you conjugate that?
Like just a family of pitches.
No, interval, like it's got sections in time that it changes within.
Yeah, it's sort of segmented into something that feels like a suite of mini compositions within a bigger form. I mean, the scary part
This is how we think about things, even stupid things like washing machines.
I mean,
I stand dumbfounded at the sound of bad air conditioning belts on cars sometimes. That like high squealing sound.
Oh, yeah. When the car gets going.
Oh, man.
Or like there's a restaurant we go to where the ovens that make the bread make this really piercing, high-pitched tone, and it kind of sounds like Richard Chartier or No Se Sakata or like some like really brutal like micro sound release. But it's just this bread oven, and it makes this incredible noise. And we try to talk to the waiter and waitress at the restaurant about it. Like, do you hear that thing? And they're like, what? We're like, that thing, do you hear it? And we realize they've had to survive around this noise by suppressing it and just not noticing it because it's so harsh. But, our orientation is to always try to like embrace that stuff, embrace the everyday sounds that are just all around you and try to like find some peace with them. I mean, it's still scary to bet the farm of a whole album on a single object. I will say, since I wasn't in charge of this record, I knew that it would be Martin's fault if the record was terrible. And there's a certain like, yes, dear conformist cowardice in that. I think every couple experiences that in some ways. But in this case, I think Martin was right. I mean, I don't mean to sound gross or like self-congratulatory, but it seems like it was a hunch or an intuition, but it paid off because the more time we spent with the sound and this object, the more we found. There was just so much going on in there, And that was really what made it like a fun record rather than something kind of excruciating.
Another sort of interesting thing about sort of sampling the washing machine in the way that you did, and correct me on this if I'm wrong, it kind of seems like it comes with a preset ending, or I guess sort of a preset amount of time that you could sort of create the piece with. Because if I'm correct, you sort of compose the piece along the same length of the cycle the washing machine was running through itself.
Truth be told, that was largely a coincidence.
Okay.
And that we make great hay out of, when we talk about this stuff. That I don't mean to sound disingenuous, but we do anticipate the talking about this stuff. Mm-hmm. We're not Autechre. We give interviews and we love to talk, and we know that the talk will get folded back into what people think about when they're listening to it. Mm-hmm. And honestly, the stuff we came up with to make up the album came out around 38 minutes. And we realized, oh shit, the washing machine is about 38 minutes too. We should say we did that on purpose.
I mean, yeah, part of it is like, you're making a bid for people's attention, and I didn't feel that this was a double album statement. There's some great double albums and there's some longer Matmos records, but this record felt to me like it would make the most sense if we made it conform to the frame of the experience of doing laundry, that you put it on and you endure that and you don't interrupt it and it determines your attention. I mean, I think where we concede to the logic of the LP is that we really did build it as two, roughly 24-minute suites that have a puncture point in the middle. And that was designed so that the 38-minute version wouldn't be that different from the LP version. There's a kind of weird cut up that happens at the midpoint that massages that thing that on the vinyl you have to flip the record.
Yeah.
So it is kind of, we're sort of folding the reality of the washing machine onto the reality of the turntable. And I think in some ways that's a reflection of maybe that we're so obsessed with albums as statements and with that album era of consumption for music. It's not really tied to the digital habit of like Spotify or
how do you feel, Anthony, about the fact that it's one 38-minute track instead of being broken up?
Well, I think it's a bit of a breath of fresh air from so many albums where it seems like that sort of format is dying in the digital music era and in the music streaming era, where basically, and you guys sort of tell me your experience with this. I don't know if sort of streaming one track, whether it be 3 minutes or 38 minutes, that's sort of like, one click, and having one track, if it's a 38-minute track, I mean, you guys can obviously put whatever price on it you want, but there are a lot of record labels out there that I see influencing artists to sort of, at least hit that standard 10-track number, throw an intro in there, throw an outro in there, throw a filler track in there, just so that we get those 10 tracks at least, so that we can get that $1.29 price for every single track.
Yeah,
and
we're very lucky to have always been on both Thrill Jockey and Matador have been very good. Both of their policies, we will let you shoot yourself in the foot if you want. You can do whatever stupid ass thing you want.
Yeah.
And once or twice Matador, obviously.
I think digital pricing always struck me as very unfair to say like grindcore, like you buy like a Napalm Death album or something, you're paying $1 for every song. But if there's 30 songs, it doesn't work for like Agoraphobic Nosebleed or something. I think for me, because a lot of my closest listening took place in the context of like psychedelic experience where I wanted these long form pieces to take me somewhere, and so I was really ready for a long, ambient work or, a Vladislav Delay record like Anima that is a single block that you really experience in that way. And yet I was worried. About Ultimate Care 2 maybe not getting that sort of focus from people. I think ultimately, though, you sort of have to trust that people will get it if you explain what it is you're going for, that you don't need to worry so much and like condescend about it. And you can kind of let people, they have a progress bar. If they have some 38-minute file, they can jump to the 20-minute mark if they want to. I'm not there to like, arch my eyebrow at them.
Though it disturbed me. I would arch my eyebrow if I possibly could at them for doing that. But it disturbs whatever.
You've got some amazing eyebrows, actually.
No, please go into that. Please go into the eyebrow arching if you want. Go into the stern talking to that you would give the person if you could just magically appear there wherever it would be that this person skipped to the 20-minute mark in the song.
If people want, they can Skype me up and I'll
glare
and glower.
I mean, it's an arc that we put a lot of thought into about taking them across a particular sequence of emotions and also of frequencies. I was very worried that the album would be so intensively like industrial clattering that it would kind of fry out people's ears. And so we had to position the pieces. I mean, it's why that piece in the last 3 minutes is so harsh and strong, is to kind of like wake people up after the more entrancing like seaside washiness of some of the previous segments. And so I don't feel that those segments have as much power taken out of context. I mean, we presented them with videos as a way of telling people about this project. And, I think that's valid. But for me, the work is really meant to be experienced from start to finish. I don't demand that you just stare at your speaker like you're allowed to read a book or something. do some yoga. I don't know.
No reading. No yoga. Sitting like the guy in that Max L commercial. You know that picture where the guy's sitting in the armchair and his hair.
That's exactly how I was listening to the record, so that's perfect.
Well done.
I mean, it's weird when you think about laundromats too. Like, laundromats are spaces where strangers have to be kind of close to each other and look at each other's socks and underwear. And you nervously read a magazine or look at your phone as a way of managing the weird intimacy of laundromats. And I think of this record.
Where are you going with this?
Well, the sort of like schmaltzy, like reverie part of our record. Like, I think that that's true about the timing of laundry, that there's a kind of sanctioned time where you're doing something, you're doing a task, but in a way the machine is doing the task for you. And so you're licensed to just space out, you know? And I think that spacing out, that time of doing nothing or of zoning out is under pressure now because the workday has expanded. Digital tools mean you're always reachable. Why aren't you being productive? A culture of multitasking asks you to do multiple things at the same time. And I kind of like the dead time feeling of laundry, you know? Like, I wanted a record that maybe addressed that. I don't know. I mean, that's a best case scenario for somebody who just sort of spaces out and can't even tell, like, how long has our record been going? You know, that's what I'd like to induce.
Well, one thing, though, I think 2 or 3 of the first listens that I had given to the record, I actually was not sitting in the chair. I was sitting on a train to New York, and then I was taking a few subways, and I was walking around the city, and it was actually, I don't know, kind of the pacing of the record, especially the high intensity, you know, rhythmic spots where you're getting kind of all those metallic bangs and clangs, was a really interesting soundtrack for that commute. You know, like, it was very clearly a washing machine a lot of the time, but it sort of fit the urban jungle kind of surroundings that I was in the middle of at that time.
I love what you're saying, because the working title for the first 6 minutes of this album was Train.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that build up from the water filling to this sort of chugging rhythmic pattern, and then the sort of xylophone-like patterns that come in. Yeah, the working title for that was Train. So that's kind of cool that you were listening to it on a train.
That was just the right place at the right time. And then after that, you know, I do like that generally, just to say this before we go off to the next thing. I do like a lot that it is, just one single track. I mean, like you're saying, you know, you're not sort of angry with fans per se if they're doing yoga while listening to the record, but it's rare that an artist ever implies these days in the digital age, in the streaming age, to their fans that this is one whole entire piece and you should listen to it in one whole entire piece. Especially in a day and age where, and I grew up with mixtapes and mixed CDs, and I have nothing against making mixes, but I feel like just sort of generating playlists has become so easy that people are rarely, if ever, just listening to an album from beginning to end anymore. Just the other day, I was talking to some fans of the show at a speaking engagement that I was doing, and some of them were asking me, what playlists I make or what playlists I put together. And I'm like, I don't know, I never put playlists together. I just listen to an album from beginning to end.
Aha!
Aha! So,
yeah, you got to preach that, because it's true that fast forwarding to the emotional peak of something, there's an understandable kind of rush that a great song gives you, but the sort of family portrait effect of a cluster of songs and of the way that an image or a sound or an idea can kind of float across multiple songs, that's part of the joy of listening via an album, is the joy of context and the complexity of like a whole constellation of pieces that affect each other through their proximity, and maybe answer each other, or like a problem is proposed and then it's maybe solved over the course of a set of songs that are written. I don't know. I mean, an example here would be like Björk's Volnicura, right? Which tracks the process of collapse of a relationship and the emergence out the other side. Yep. And if you just jumped to one moment, yes, it's valid, and it was presented as a song with a title, but it's not really as effective as the synergetic impact of the sequence in sequence, because it's reflecting on a bigger arc. And I think albums do that for us, but we have to as listeners bring the willingness to give ourselves, to give a little of our own like patience, like my long answers that go on forever.
Sure. Well, I mean, usually when I'm listening, I like to listen to music in such a way where I'm getting a certain vibe for an extended period of time, longer than 3 minutes, longer than 10 minutes. If I'm going to be really sitting down and listening to music for a while, or listening to music for a while I'm doing something else. And usually the easiest way to get that one singular vibe going for an extended period of time is to just listen to an entire album that sort of features that vibe, features that mood, features that sound.
Yeah. I mean, as I grow ever older, I sort of increasingly realize, like, oh, they figured this out like 150 years ago, and they're called symphonies.
Sure.
I mean, I feel like our music fails a lot of time because the concepts are pulling us in a lot of different directions, and we're being true to the concept, but that hurts the consistency of the album. I think that hurt our album, The Marriage of True Minds, a little bit, because it was conceptually all generated through the same, matrix of parapsychological experiments, but because each transcript from a different psychic session was a very different one, the result was music that didn't really flow. And when you have albums that are highly diverse, there's some highly diverse albums that are still amazing and hold together. Like I think, Throbbing Gristle's 20 Jazz Funk Greats is one. But I think that there's a big risk when you do that. Whereas albums that have a certain emotional continuity, like, I don't know, Nico, Desert Shore, there's a reason that you put it on and you want to be in that world for 45 minutes and it doesn't feel oppressive and it doesn't feel samey.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, jumping around emotionally and stylistically sometimes is the aesthetic, sort of like with a band like Ween or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that could be an appeal in and of itself.
Yeah. What will they pull off next? Where else can they go?
Sure.
I think there's artists that have that ability. I mean, the classic shape was that the rock album was like driving rock jams and then a ballad at the end of each side, because literally to cut vinyl, there was less of a high-end, high-frequency response.
Still true.
At the end. So you'd stick ballads at the end there. It's kind of weird to think about the technology being a sort of hidden contour for the way the art is getting assembled. But it's also like each side is a little bit sad that it's ending.
That's actually a really interesting factoid there, which has essentially driven the fact that at the end of nearly almost every album that you hear, there's an acoustic cut or there's like a sad song.
Yeah, put it at the end there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had no idea. I had no idea of that. The first vinyl record I ever made in the late 80s. The mastering engineer was this guy at Fantasy Studios in Berkeley, in the previously mentioned George Horn, who mastered Creedence Clearwater Revival, and I think he had been mastering for 15 years before then.
Yeah, he did all the Sylvester disco albums too.
Yeah, I mean, this guy was
legit.
Yeah, OG, as they say. Anyway, and his first thing upon listening to the record I brought in, he was like, it's too much crap at the end of the side. It's too much crap at the end of the side. You're supposed to stick a ballad there. Yeah, and that's how I learned this factoid.
Yeah.
Well, we still await our ballads. Maybe someday a Matmos ballad will be born.
Yeah, that's it's just sort of interesting to see how you guys are making experimental music and how it doesn't fit into sort of traditional expectations like that. But it seems like still when you're making music, though, you do have an ear, or you do sort of pay some attention toward, is this going to be too harsh? Is this going to be too weird? Especially as you guys are telling me about your sampling process of this washing machine. As you're sort of pulling it together, how much is it in the forefront of your mind that we like these sounds, we find these sounds intriguing, but they have to translate as musical to the audience?
Yeah, it's a big part of the process, and it also comes out in the quality control between the two of us. I make things that I might think are strong, and Martin will say, it's just not interesting. It just doesn't speak to me. And because Martin and I are very different people, the music that either of us proposes has to appeal to the pleasure centers of the other person. And that kind of mutual editing, or I don't know, we call it a co-tyranny. It sounds like it's just about two people, but there is this third person in the room that's the virtual listener. I think if you worry directly about her or him, then you're pandering and it's bad.
Sure.
The road to hell is paved with people trying to sell out.
Yeah.
I think we try to balance, conceptual tightness with the hope that these will be records that you can really return to, that it isn't like a candy bar and you eat it once and you're done. It's the same with a lot of, like, the challenge with humor is a little bit similar, right? That strong comedies are still funny even when you know the joke. Mm-hmm. Like the gasoline fight in Zoolander is funny the second, the third, the fourth time. And I think with us, even though we court this idea of novelty music or gimmickry, and I think that's kind of a social category too that I would want to be maybe skeptical about. I want us to create something that can function even if you don't know it's made out of a washing machine, or if you don't care that it's made out of plastic surgery. Like, it's important that we did that, but I don't want that to be the only justification for it. It has to actually be compelling on its own merits as just sound. And that's a harsh mistress, because you can get pretty intoxicated with the idea that, like, well, I worked so hard to create this bizarre situation in which, there's lasers and there's snails in a glass tube, and the snails are interrupting the laser, and that's going to a light sensitive theremin. I mean, it's a lot of schlepping, but if it doesn't sound cool, then really, why bother?
Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta say, when I originally had this idea, I knew that it was dumb. and at no point did we ever not know, like, that's kind of,
it's so literal.
It's kind of dumb. Like, it's, we know. Like, a sort of less seasoned interviewer asked us the other day, like, so is this is the first record ever made out of a washing machine? And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, really, you don't know.
And it doesn't matter. Like, that's not. In fact, the idea was supposed to be so aggressively dumb as to sort of challenge, like, right now
really do it.
So what's important is, in fact, the music that you make out of it.
Yeah.
Which is always the case.
I mean, that's why it starts with such a didactic, like, here's a washing machine, but then within 5 minutes, 6 minutes, you've moved past that, hopefully, and you're entering a different state of mind. Like, I think that the sheer, I can't believe you did that. Like, there's a dimension to it that is about that fact. But by 7 minutes in, you're not obsessing about that. You're having an experience, hopefully.
No, I mean, I think there are moments where it certainly doesn't, feel like I'm still listening to a washing machine, specifically during the more spacious and sort of ambient and serene passages in the piece. But it also feels like there was definitely a concerted effort to make sure that the presence of the washing machine was there, peppered throughout different pieces of the track, just as kind of a reminder, like, this is what we're working with.
Yeah, and that's what happens when we do it live. I mean, it's one of the weirdest moments, I have to say, in playing music with Martin, is that when we play Ultimate Care live, we bring the washing machine from our basement.
No.
Yeah.
What?
We bring it and we set it up.
We will be in, by the way, what are you?
No, he's in Connecticut.
Are you anywhere near? You're near Providence, kind of.
I'm just
No.
in New England, so
Okay,
I'm
yeah,
around
we're
New
gonna
York
play in
and-
Providence with Container
Next week.
and Chicago and Brooklyn. And, we did this in Baltimore as a sort of test of, can we do this? So we bring the washing machine from our basement with a big garbage can full of water and a pump that is pumping water into the washing machine, and it's draining, and we do laundry on stage live. And about, 30 minutes into the show, we all stop and we just let the washing machine go for like 3 minutes, and it takes a little solo. And Martin and I and Sam, the drummer from Horse Lords, he's drumming with us on the washing machine.
Yep.
We all just sit in chairs and just listen and let the sound be. And it's just a really weird moment for me of not performing, because the washing machine is the star in that moment. It's taken a solo. And it seems to work. Like, touch wood. I don't know how it'll go at other shows. We'll find out. But people really...
Yeah, it went very well. And I mean, Baltimore audiences are
especially loving.
are especially patient and good. A DJ buddy of mine here said, yeah, DJing in Baltimore, it's almost too easy. I had people dancing to the sound of a crow for 4 minutes one night. He's literally playing a field recording of a crow, like, bark, 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 bark. People are going off. Anyway, so we'll see if this plays in Peoria.
I mean, obviously, during the washing machine sort of bit of the performance, people in the crowd were going, "Woo! Woo! Yeah!"
There was some of that.
They were loving it.
But during the let's listen to the washing machine part, what I was really shocked by was that they were all, and this was like a party night. There were like 200 people, drinking and stuff. It wasn't like a
culture bunker.
Yeah, it wasn't a seated thing.
Yeah.
Everyone was absolutely quiet and had their washing machine moment.
I think that's the magic trick we want to pull off. We don't know if we can do it again, but that way of sneaking up on people with something that they know what it is. They already know it's a washing machine, but they encounter it in a new way, and they kind of give a little bit of themselves to it, and it changes. So like that's pretty cool if like you can have the same experience twice for the first time of hearing it in a new way just because of the context. I mean, it helps if you've massively amplified it, it becomes physical in a different way.
Yeah. A few more questions here that I wanted to get into, and I have to look up these live dates now just to kind of
come on down.
See if I could come on down, because I kind of need to see this in person.
We'll put you on the guest list. You're a journalist.
I was hitting up some people on Twitter asking them what they're curious about in regards to the new record, and one person asked me if any, are there any sounds on the record that are not washing machine derived? Because I know that you guys are have worked with just synthetic sounds before, like on Supreme Balloon, and you're perfectly capable of just deriving sounds that have nothing to do with samples or whatever. So were there just any purely synthetic sounds worked into the piece that weren't derived from the washing machine?
Well, it all rests on the technicality of derived.
Yeah,
I sound a little like Bill Clinton saying it depends on what your definition of is.
Yeah, I get it. You did not derive it from that washing machine.
But here's what I'd say. Like what we did that was a little weird was we made samples of the washing machine, put it onto my laptop. Then we sent that through this thing called a transducer, which is basically what's inside of headphones and also microphones. It's the thing that drives inside a speaker, the speaker cone.
It's the thing that changes electricity into movement, or movement into electricity.
Mm-hmm.
So we sent samples of the washing machine through a transducer that was attached to the washing machine, and it makes the washing machine vibrate and shake. And what we did was turns
the washing machine into a speaker.
Yeah, it becomes almost like a bass Jeep. So like it's throbbing with this sound. If you crank up a low frequency, it makes the machine shake. So we played at frequencies that caused a kind of feedback loop of the washing machine feeding back into itself, amplifying itself. And that created these very pure pitches that sound like a tone, which I could then chop up. And so everything on Ultimate Care 2 that sounds like a weird synth is actually created through the feedback of a transducer on the washing machine.
But it is originally the sound of the washing machine that is making that is causing that.
No,
Yeah.
I get it. It's from the washing machine, but you guys are kind of cheating. I get it.
Sure. There's also, if you listen very carefully in one part, you can hear me trying to play a part and go, "Argh!" So there is that sound as well. That is not the washing machine. That's me going, "Argh."
I got it. Okay, so after this tour, after these live performances, after these dates, will you replace this washer, or will it just go back snugly into your washroom, into your practice room?
My deepest wish is to just return it to where it belongs. I mean,
Poor thing.
Like, it is not a gentle process, the loading in and loading out of gear into venues. Apparently in Providence, the venue is on the 3rd floor and it's upstairs all the way.
Yeah.
And are you guys handling this? Or,
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's not like a couple of stage hands there.
No.
And even if there were, they would come downstairs and they'd look at that and they'd be like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Fuck this, we moved music stuff, not...
Yeah, there's a certain...
No, we aren't fancy like that.
There's a certain ride or die, like... We made this washing machine album with that washing machine, so god damn it, we're gonna bring.
You guys
that
are gonna be buff as fuck after the tour.
That's my goal.
We're not, however, taking it to Europe.
Yeah, we're gonna find another one in Europe. And,
I have a young man in Berlin who is trying his best to find me an actual Ultimate Care 2. He found one
in Munich,
which is on the other end of Germany.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
we don't want to go with some other brand like a Bauknecht or some German brand, because a lot of those are very eco-groovy and they're very quiet and they take a long time. They're like 2 hours long to run the cycle, which would just be kind of excruciating. So yeah, we're hoping for an Ultimate Care 2 in Europe. It's going to be tricky. I mean, I feel like it'll be fun though, because we start the European tour at Berghain, and it sort of seems like a reductio ad absurdum of minimal techno to actually just play a washing machine at Berghain.
Yeah, no, I get it. Your machine has a certain sound, and you're also brand loyal. Brand loyal.
Yeah.
It really does have. I mean, the sound is the sound. It's not.
We're not kidding.
Yeah, it's. If I started playing, obviously since we made this plan, I've been going around and whacking on other people's washing machines.
No, I get it. It's like, Fender versus an Ibanez or something. I understand.
Exactly. We're not going to suddenly bring the Dan Electro.
Yep.
I think it's, well, yeah. I mean, maybe it's just me. But yeah, I was going to say it's more like a guitar versus a banjo.
There's that comparison to draw too. Yes.
Yes.
All right. This has been a great interview. You guys were super easy, super fun, very upfront. I appreciate it. I want to thank Martin and Drew for coming on here and being on the show, talking about this latest record. I'm going to leave some links down in the description box where you can find out about their new tour and try out their new record. And again, I appreciate you guys coming on the show.